in the beginning of how I used to teach this, I didn't have the scientific evidence like I do now, right? You know, like 15 years ago, the scientific evidence for how emotion manifests, shows up in our body, how our mind interacts with it, all of that was not there, or it was very young because we've really only been able to see the brain for about 30 years. And I've learned a lot since then. Like, I've really been keeping my finger on the pulse of what are we discovering around our well-being. Like, it's not even accurate to say mental and emotional well-being, because often when we're talking about mental well-being, we actually are talking about emotional well-being. So is there really a difference? For example, there's a definition that when we are mentally well, we can go through the ups and downs of life, those feelings, we can experience all of those feelings, and yet not get stuck in any of those feelings. You see? That's healthy. That's healthy. Now, doesn't that sound like emotional well-being? And so what is the connection? And what if we were to start to see, so I pull it apart for a couple of reasons. One is, yes, of course, what's happening with you if you're ruminating, or what's happening with you mentally around something, there's going to be an adjacent emotion, and it really feels like they're the same, and they could be, is what I'm saying. But I pull it apart so you can start to become aware of the emotion, because we use our mind so much to numb out and not be aware of what's happening with us physically. I'm not pulling it apart to suggest that they actually are separate. And one of the things that we're discovering, what I've actually done a lot of studying around grief and trauma, right? Because of things that have happened in my own life. And did you know that we are more apt to have a heart attack, 21 times more apt to have a heart attack within 24 hours of losing a loved one? Right? Grief is real, okay? And even how we measure whether or not it's healthy grief or not, like now we actually have some benchmarks for that. And what we've learned about that, and I think it's true for all the emotions, is we're all starting from a different place. So something happens, and depending on where you are in your life and in your own growth and in your journey, and there's so many dimensions of that, right? Depending on where you are, that will have a lot to do with how you process, manage, facilitate your own healing around a trauma or grief or some big event happening that, you know, is shocking for you mentally and emotionally, right? And so when you think about the work that we're doing, I'm asking you, I'm inviting you to recognize that you are in training for life. That this is your opportunity to be very mindful of what you're experiencing. And it's your opportunity to gain capacity for being, and your opportunity to gain capacity for breath and processing what you're feeling. And that you don't yet know what you may be preparing for. It's this type of training that's so often missing, but then when we get at it after the fact, then it's even harder, right? Stuck trauma, stuck unprocessed emotions. What I'm suggesting to you is you're not only working with just processing your day and processing past stuff, but there's also the preparation for who does this allow you to be in your life as you learn to experience guilt in a healthy way, or you learn to experience courage on a regular basis, or you learn to experience peace even when there's turmoil. So as you develop this type of capacity, it isn't just for now and for your history, it's also will determine what you're going to live into in terms of your journey. And thinking about, like I've been thinking a lot about peace because it's really easy for me to get to courage. It's really easy for me to get to willingness. Peace, you know, that one can be kind of fleeting for me. So that's been at the core for me, is like, what really allows for a completely peaceful inner world. And I think that it's important that you think about and use your imagination for, how are you wanting to feel? How are you wanting to move through this world and this journey? And what no longer serves you, because the opportunity here is for you to let go of what no longer serves you. And we carry around a lot of tools, coping mechanisms, that may no longer serve us, right? And that this is the opportunity to peel back the onion and recognize, don't need that story anymore. Don't need that boundary anymore.